You and I have been on an extraordinary journey together in this course looking at PC hardware. We've literally taken an in-depth look at computer components, how they interrelate, which ones to recommend, and so forth. Ultimately, this gives you the skill and confidence to be able to take the 220-801 exam for A+ on computer hardware. It also enables you to be a distinguished engineer and technician when you go out into the work world. Keep in mind that here at Train Signal, our goal is your success. Success in education, success in business, success personally. And we truly do believe that education and training is the great equalizer. One of the things that we want to do in the next few moments is we want to give a wrap-up of the topics we talked about. We want to look at the exam and how to schedule it and so forth, and then understand the next steps. For instance, the 220-802 A+ software part of the exam, so that you can complete your A+ certification and get out there in the marketplace.
To begin with, let's talk a little bit about really the purpose for this course, and that's preparing for the 220-801 A+ PC hardware certification exam. First, let's just talk a little bit about the content that we've covered. Essentially, it's been focusing on PC hardware. Talked about processors and motherboards, about power supplies, memory, all sorts of things, but primarily PC hardware related. We talked about networking, about Ethernet and addressing and wireless and all sorts of other things like that. We've talked about printers, laser printers, inkjet printers, dot matrix printers, and so forth. We've talked about laptops as well, saying that they really do the same thing that desktops do, but go about it in a completely different manner with different form factors and different ways to be able to accomplish some of the same tasks. And then we talked about something that doesn't really seem to be PC hardware related, but still critical for success, our operational procedures. So we want to talk a little bit about the test-taking environment. First of all, the primary provider for the CompTIA exams, and this one in particular, is Pearson VUE. Pearson VUE has been doing standardized testing for years and actually does it across a whole wide range of enterprises. So in addition to information technology, they actually cover a lot more. But PearsonVUE.com actually gives you a lot of information about testing centers, where they're located, policies and procedures, making appointments, and so forth. It'll actually tell you your locations, how to schedule your exam. These types of exams, for instance, you don't take online. You actually go to a testing center and actually sit down in a room full of other people taking these types of standardized tests. When you're actually figuring out what testing center you're going to go to, you may have to put in a number of different testing centers to get the date that you want for the exam that you want. Once you have selected your exam and booked it online, you're going to be requiring payment, whether it's a voucher because of some program you're in or an actual payment, typically by credit card. Make sure you understand and observe their inclement weather policy. For instance, if for some reason the testing center has to close because of bad weather, please take note of it. I've had some personal experiences where I've had to make a lot of phone calls to straighten something out. As far as checking in, when you get there, most of these environments will have small lockers that you actually can put your personal belongings in. Many times, you can actually just leave certain things in the car, such as your cell phone, for example. You'll need 2 forms of ID, including some government-issued ID with a photo. And you'll need to have your picture taken and a signature required. And there's a variety of different things that you can actually do to prepare ahead of time. So to begin with, already know your way to the testing center. If you don't know, try to drive there, provided it's somewhere close by. I realize that in some areas it may be quite a distance away, so that may not be practical. But arrive early if you can, maybe even as much as 30 minutes early. Worst case is they'll let you begin the exam early if you feel you're ready. Otherwise, if there's a line, there's a lot of other people waiting, or there's some other problem that you may encounter, traffic or something like that, it'll actually give you a cushion where you won't have to be concerned about that. If you have a problem while you're taking the exam, the computer freezes up or there's a problem, immediately let the testing center proctor know. Don't try to fix it yourself. Don't hope it'll get better, because the time you lose, you probably will not get back. For those of you that get test anxiety, let me just share with you some things that I have learned over the years. First, be prepared. make sure you have plenty of rest the night before. Last-minute cramming is not going to be your friend. Use legitimate practice exams to test for readiness. There are many materials that say that they're authorized, but they may actually be stolen test material. Be very, very careful to stay away from those. If you don't feel you're ready, make sure you reschedule. There's no shame in rescheduling something if you don't feel you're ready. And as I said before, know your way to the testing center in advance. Don't guess at it. Actually take a practice run to the test center if it's practical for you. Next, pace yourself. When you start the exam, typically you're going to be told how many questions there are and how long the exam is. And that can kind of give you an idea of basically how much time to spend on each question. And note that that is an average. Some questions may be very, very quick. Others may take a little longer. But it gives you an idea of how to pace yourself. Avoid spending too much time on a single question. That's one of the things that can be dangerous. I've had experiences where I've spent way too much time on questions and then had to randomly choose stuff as it got toward the end of the test, and it's very risky to be able to pass that way. If you don't know the answer, don't panic. There's other things that you can do to actually help yourself. Let the exam itself work for you. Many times in standardized tests, if there's only one answer, it will tell you there's only one answer. If there are two answers, it'll tell you there are two answers. You just need to pay attention to the type and way that the exam is laid out and not stress. Ultimately, guess only when you have to. If you don't know the answer for sure, then just do your best to be able to use a process of elimination. And when in doubt, remember the basics. Use a process of elimination on questions. Something I have done over the years is, for instance, if there is A, B, C, D, E as answers, I will actually take the little dry erase board that they actually hand you. Remember, you're not allowed to take paper, but they'll give you like a dry erase board. And I'll actually write down A, B, C, D, E, and F, and then I'll actually start eliminating what I know wrong answers are. For instance, if there's one that's completely off base, and others that if you've studied, you'll realize are not correct. And you can actually get down to one or two. So worst case scenario, if you're not 100% sure of the answer, but you've gotten it down to two, you've got a much better statistical likelihood of actually getting that answer correct. So now you've scheduled the exam, you've used your strategy, you've gone and you've taken the exam and you've passed it, you feel good. Many times you'll say, well, what are the next steps? What's next? Because remember that 228.01 is only half of what you need to complete the certification. So let's talk about the next steps that are involved. First, remember where you started from. It's a journey, a lot like climbing a mountain. If you've ever climbed a mountain or gone hiking, it can look very challenging as you start out. And as you're going up the particular path or rock face or however you might be going up, there may be times when you get discouraged, you may look down and get scared, you may slip and slide down a little bit and have to start over again, but ultimately when you get to the top, you're able to look down and see all that you have been able to accomplish. And ultimately that's what you've done by taking this course, by studying for and passing the exam. You have actually accomplished something you can be tremendously, tremendously proud of. So understand now that you have actually built foundational skills about PC hardware in terms of knowledge and skills in that regard. You understand system architectures now, major functional components, peripherals and external devices, customized systems, network technology fundamentals, personal computer safety principles, there's a lot involved there, and professional image development. Now look at what you've accomplished. You've mastered the building blocks of personal computer technology, especially from a hardware perspective. You've increased your knowledge base. You've now created a blueprint for continued learning. Now you're able to demonstrate expertise as a computer professional, and you have the confidence to undertake and pass the 228.01 A+ exam. And ultimately, this is the first step to the A+ certification, which naturally brings up the subject of what's on the 228.02 exam. I'm glad you asked. So, unlike the 228.01, the 228.02 is more software focused. For instance, you will look at operating systems. Windows XP, Home, Professional, 64-bit, for example. Windows Vista, Home, Business, Ultimate, Enterprise. These are different levels that we'll discuss. And then Windows 7, Home, Professional, and Ultimate. You'll also look at security, physical security, digital security, and wireless security. You'll investigate mobile devices, mobile operating systems, laptops, mobile device security, troubleshooting, hardware troubleshooting, network troubleshooting, and printer troubleshooting, even beyond what we've talked about. A lot of things to be able to master in the 220-802 course and exam. So as we summarize this lesson and ultimately wrap up the course, we want to talk about two terms. Pearson VUE, the official testing vendor for the CompTIA certification program, which includes the A+. And then the 220-801, the current exam number of the CompTIA A+ PC hardware exam.
Well, that actually wraps up this particular course on the CompTIA's 220-801 A+ PC hardware course. Just wanted to take a moment to thank you, both from all of us at Train Signal, as well as personally as an instructor. I can tell you, having spent a decade and a half in IT, that education and training can open up doors of opportunities for you like nothing else. And I wish you all the success in your personal and professional future. Thank you for your time.